In this episode, we're going to tackle the issue of housing a cast and crew. One of the first decisions that you're going to have to make while you're in development for a project is deciding whether you want to go with strictly locals as far as your cast and crew, or to spread out the net wider for people out of town. There are pros and cons to both. Local talent is going to make having to do housing and transportation pretty much non-existent. They take care of their own stuff. But if you're bringing in people from out of town or out of state, you have to worry about where the heck you're going to put them when they're not expected on set. Honestly, a nice mix of both local and non-locals can really enhance a production. And you might live in an area where the local talent pool is pretty shallow. This isn't to insult them, it's just you don't have a lot of choices. And if you've got a big project in mind and nobody in that pool fits the bill, you're going to either have to compromise or you're going to have to reach out past your hometown. When it comes to housing a cast and crew, there are two big things to consider. How many people are in need of housing, and how many of them are going to have cars. The latter seems like a dumb question, but believe me, this can be a problem. If you've got 18 people coming in and they're driving 18 cars, you're going to have to find a place to put those 18 cars. Now, while most people immediately think about putting up people in hotels, there are other options. When you have a large group of people, a hotel might be the most ideal, or you might be able to rent a large house. Both of these options have pros and cons that I'm going to talk about. Now, hotels can have all kinds of amenities that are very attractive. They usually have free internet connections, they give people private bathrooms, some of them even have free breakfast offerings, there's plenty of parking, and they do their own housekeeping. All these are great points. The problem with it is that your local hotel might be 10 miles away from your film set. So then you will have to deal with transporting your cast and crew to the film set every day, which is usually by means of shuttling if you don't have enough space on your set for them to drive themselves. Now, renting a house has a lot of pros as well. People will be able to do their own laundry. They'll be able to eat there, which will save on having to figure out how you're going to feed everybody at hotels or catering on set. It usually has a lot of storage available where you'll be able to store wardrobe and camera equipment. And there's usually adequate space to be able to have a meeting room when you have to do table reads or meet with your cast and crew for any reason. A large residential house rental might be an ideal fit. It also has the bonus of, if you're talking to the owners, you might be able to use it as part of your sets as well. Now, with a low budget, you always have to consider cost too. Hotels can be expensive. Most of them are charging for double occupancy, which means 2 people per room. You can find smaller houses available that go for nightly rates that might fit a few more people, but they can still be pretty expensive per night. Or you might be able to find a big mansion for rent, which can house tons of people for what appears to be a bargain. So let's talk about bargains for a minute, as well as pitfalls. With the local hotel, especially if you're filming during the off-season, you might be able to arrange for a deal. A lot of hotel managers, if they know you're bringing in a lot of people, might offer you a great discount. Perhaps they'll be able to give you the rooms that can fit 4 people instead of 2 for a lower price, or they might be able to offer you straight-up discounts on whatever rooms are available. If you do some careful planning and shoot during the off-seasons when the hotels are mostly empty, they're usually going to be very happy to strike some sort of a deal with you in order to get those rooms filled. Now, if you look online at vacation rental houses, you're going to find a lot of them that look like they're a great deal. I've actually seen ones that claim to sleep 10 people for about $100 a night. While I would have normally jumped on something like that, you have to look at the listing and look for anything that's an additional cost that is not on their top advertised dollar. Sometimes this is a resort fee that can be extraordinarily expensive, and it generally claims to cover the cost of internet connection or parking. Another thing that these listings tend to have is a cleaning fee. whether it's a one-time after you leave cleaning fee or a weekly cleaning fee. Sometimes they're actually quite expensive as well. So suddenly that very reasonable price per night has become extremely unreasonable. There are a lot of house owners who are putting their properties up for rent who are honest about it and who don't try to hide these fees and don't try to surprise their visitors. You just have to keep an eye out for them and make a note of the ones that are trying to rob you on the back-end fees and those that don't. When you're coming up with housing for your cast and crew, you also have to think of what type of amenities do you need. Do you need storage for costumes and things? Do you need a meeting room? Do you need somebody who's going to clean up after everybody, or do you need a maid service? Do you need laundry facilities? Do you need a kitchen so you can prepare meals for everybody yourself rather than eating out all the time? What about internet connection? And how many cars do you have to park? All these things need to be considered when you're planning out how you're going to house your cast and crew. Now, a storage issue can be pretty easy. There are storage rental units that go for monthly fees all over the place. You can get them in all kinds of sizes, from 5x5 up to the size of a large barn, and a lot of them are accessible 24 hours. This might be a solution for you if the thing that's stopping you from going for a cheaper housing situation is needing a place to store all your stuff. Parking issues, especially in larger cities, can also be handled by using public parking. Most of these places have a per day cost, although sometimes you can find some that have a weekly rate. And this might be the solution for parking cars that are not going to be needed all the time. I would suggest whenever you have parking available at the actual locations, keep the cars that are likely to be going everywhere all the time, like cars that belong to the PA or cars that are going to be shuttling people from one place to another, and then have everybody else park in the parking area. Just whatever you do, make sure to reimburse everybody on their parking fees. If not, pay them yourself up front. If you've got a lot of wheels turning and a lot of actors coming in at different times and you're shooting things all over the place, it's best to hire somebody to do this for you. Hire a production coordinator who can specifically keep track of what the rentals are, when the rents are due, when actors are coming in, when they're leaving, how many rooms they need on any particular day. Having somebody else take this headache off of your hands will make things a lot easier for you as you focus your attention on the production itself. And sometimes you might find that having a combination of everything is going to be your best bet. You might have some actors that are only going to be in for a few days that you can throw in a hotel, while you have your main cast and crew who are with you all the time, who all might be living together in a big mansion that you rented. You might shuttle people from the hotel to the mansion in order to enjoy food and work on meetings and rehearsals. There's a lot of things that you can do to make sure that you have accommodations that everybody needs, including ones that are beneficial to your production. The larger your cast, the more expensive it's going to be, but in the end, you're going to have a much better production. I hope that you enjoyed this episode of the Unconnected Filmmaker, and if you found this information useful and want to be notified when the next video premieres, just hit that subscribe button. Or if you have anything you'd like to see an episode on, feel free to comment below. See you next time, and keep those cameras rolling.